Hi, mystery writers! Welcome to Write a Killer Mystery, where we learn to make a good mystery great. And today I'm going to talk about writing fear and how it stops you, how to recognize it, and how to overcome it because you want to keep writing. You do. All right, first, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon for their continued support for this video series and for my writing. And tonight I'm going to be posting a video to the patrons about my writing life and what's going on in my life right now with writing. So if you'd like to support this series, I encourage you to join. There's a link in the description below. Okay, let's talk about writing fear, how to conquer it, deal with it, and finish your story. Okay? There are dozens and dozens of reasons to write, but if you ask writers, they'll tell you they thought about giving up. I'd ask any writer. There was some point where they thought about giving up, and this is not just beginning writers. This is successful writers do this. It happens to everyone. So let's talk today about how you can recognize that fear and then overcome it. And at some point in the writing novel process, almost every author wonders if the story is good enough to keep going. It just happens to everyone. Self-doubt creeps in about their craft, or the plot doesn't seem to work, or they're not enamored of their main character for some reason. So what do stalled writers do when they think about giving up? First, they hit pause, and then they hit refresh. And they keep hitting refresh until the story takes their fancy once again. So let's talk about some ways to get back to writing. If you're burned out, first of all, don't force yourself to hold on. That's not going to work. You can always find yourself in a temporary slump if you just grant yourself permission to take a break from writing. Even a day. I know you want to write every day, but sometimes you just need to take a break. And this huge gap in perspective usually happens when you're well into your story, somewhere around the middle. Or well into the last act even. It's just like the story doesn't feel right and you don't feel good, and you decide maybe this isn't for you, and you dissociate from the story, and it feels as though you're high on this cliff looking down and you've lost sight of your story vision. You can't evaluate your writing. You can't tell if it's good or bad. You can't relate to it at all. So first of all, revisit why you're writing. You're writing a mystery, creating a puzzle for your readers. Mystery readers are not scrutinizing every sentence for the most juste or intricate syntax. They're just not. This isn't literary. So you're not aiming for great literary masterpiece. You're writing to entertain your readers. So keep that in mind. You do not have to be perfect. You have to think about that all the time. You do not have to be perfect. So also, stop comparing. Your favorite mystery author may have a skill that isn't yours, and that's okay. They may pull out all the feels when they're writing, or they make a super scary antagonist. If that's not your skill, stop worrying about it. Your readers will love your mystery for your skills. So concentrate on your skills and stop comparing. So then the next step is to go back into your story. Read your story so far, however far you've written, as a reader. Two things will happen when you do this. You'll find you enjoy the story, and that means it isn't drivel. And the other is, as you read, you may find places you want to edit. So do those edits because they're going to pull you back into your story, and then you'll get back into your writing mode with your story. So I want to emphasize that self-doubt is the number one writer fear. It is number one, numero uno. Blame your amygdala. It's part of your body's alarm system, located at the root of your brain. The amygdala does everything it can automatically to keep you safe. All right, that's its job. If there's risk, the amygdala sends out signals to keep your body safe. And guess what? Creativity is risk. Fear will happen. So you'll get fear lessening signals of every kind. You'll get those signals. My writing sucks. That just out of the college and read 10 books editor who rewrote everything was right. My writing sucks. Or my mom, sister, uncle, spouse, best friend hates it. No one will like it. I should quit now. And it may be that your mom, sister, uncle, spouse, best friend doesn't even read the mystery genre. So that doesn't mean no one will like it. It means they're not interested as an individual, right? You're a writer, and you know what the fears are, and they don't go away. So don't expect some magic miracle to happen, and you'll never have writer fear again. So if you're a beginning writer, know that these fears are going to pop up. And the key is to recognize the fears and calm them down, all right? Best-selling author Carolyn Levitt said in a recent interview, you can't listen to what people say. There will always be people telling you, you can't do this, or I don't like this. And there are so many writers who've gotten 80,000 rejections, and then suddenly they sell a book and it's a huge critical and commercial success. So you never know, just keep writing. And I totally agree, keep writing. Self-doubt manifests as self-censorship. So one of the best ways to calm that fear is to keep writing as you return to your writing voice, and that unique voice makes a reader love what you write. So keep writing, don't get thrown off track, and focus on your current project and your long-term writing goals. So right along with that self-doubt is fear of rejection. One major element of writer fear is rejection. Just about anyone can trigger rejection fear. Anyone. You can find yourself in a shutdown of getting your work out, even with help from professionals like editors. So you can end up not sharing your work, even bits of it, with other people, like other writers or readers or editors or agents. It just sits there because you don't want to get rejection. All right. On the one hand, adverse reaction does happen. People will reject it. But I have writer friends who have received devastating comments from editors who didn't understand their genre, and terse rejection letters from agents. They found others. They found another editor, they found another agent, and published their books with success. So don't let fear of rejection keep you from writing. One of the best ways that you can get constant support is by joining a writer's group. You find a mutually supportive group with fewer than 10 people and make certain they are simpatico. Not all writers groups are the same. I know, I've been in some bad ones. So you want to avoid groups with an overbearing leader who just takes over. You also want to avoid groups that don't have any guidelines. Guidelines make the group cohesive and successful. And also, a group may have guidelines, but they don't follow the guidelines. And they allow members to captivate time, or usually there's a submission length for each session, and say it's 5 double space 12-point pages, and somebody comes in with 5 single space 10-point pages. So it's up to the group to make sure that when somebody does that they read half of what they brought and not the whole thing, because they're going to take up an inordinate amount of time. So you just need to leave a group if it doesn't fit. Just be clear that you could leave a group if it doesn't fit, and the people in the group are also writers with the same fears. So you need to understand that every writer has fears, and other writers understand your fears. That's the way a good writing group is. Very, very supportive. And you'll actually discover that other writers are one of your best fear-conquering connections. They really understand what you're going through because they have those same fears. So, as if self-doubt and fear of rejection weren't enough, writer and writing coach Jürgen Wolf has identified 7 basic writer fears in his book, Your Writing Coach. So they are rejection, inadequacy, success, exposing yourself, only one book, too old to write, too young to write, fear of research. And I'm sure you as a writer have your own fears that you can add to that list. So with so many fears lurking in your writer's mind, it's easy to succumb. And the whole point of today's session is to not succumb. Writers who succeed keep writing. So I have what I call the Determination Antidote. Because, first of all, when you know that doubts are going to creep in and they never go away, you can work to minimize that fear. And the best antidote to writer fear is determination. Continue to write and not let that fear bring your creativity to a halt. Continue to stand up to your fear no matter what. And you're just like, okay, there you are again. So even if there's a temporary win, like there's a morning or an evening or an afternoon when it just feels like not good, continue to stand up to that fear. It's just so important. So first of all, evaluate your fears. You may even want to do something as structured as writing down a list of your fears and looking at them objectively to see if they're real or not. Basically, just realize that every writer has feelings of inadequacy about their work, about themselves, and experience those doubts as part of the writing process. I think that's the best way to look at it. We talk a lot about writing as a process, and those doubts and fears that pop in are part of the process. So you can deal with those doubts and fears, overcome them, and teach yourself to continue writing. Okay, I hope that helps us. Little pep talk for today. Um, so don't give up. That's the message. Don't give up. Don't let those fears overcome you. Just take the steps I've mentioned so you can keep writing. It's so important. There's a really astounding statistic that 97% of people who start writing a novel don't finish, they give up. So I want you to be that 3% that finishes their story and continues with their success. All right, Audible is a sponsor for this series, Write a Killer Mystery. And I'd like to encourage you to enjoy all that Audible has to offer. There are novels of every kind with fabulous narrators that you can listen to um, when you're out and about, when you're driving, when you're doing chores. And I actually like to listen to Audible each night before I go to sleep. I listen to whatever I'm listening to on Audible. I'm a pretty consistent listener. But Audible also has, what do you call it? They have things that are not stories, that they are motivational listens, and even exercise listens, mental process listens, and have a huge library. So if you haven't experienced Audible, there's a link uh, in the description below to get a 30-day trial, and you can test it out and see for yourself. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about Audible. I truly appreciate their sponsorship of Write a Killer Mystery. All right, so conquer those fears, keep writing, and I'll see you next week.